Everything that is made or built or designed with a purpose is made and built or designed with a purpose, right? When you see something that's designed, it usually has an end in mind. So for example, if you think of archaeologists, when they discover an artifact or an old construction or something from the past, they'll immediately begin to ask questions like, what is this artifact? What is this construction? Why was it made? What is its purpose, right? When you see design, you immediately assume, okay, there's a purpose behind whoever spent all this time creating this thing, designing this thing. So they'll ask questions like, is this a piece of art, right? Is this a tool? Is it a religious artifact? Is it, if it's a construction, is this a place of worship, or is it a home? Like, what is it, right? Again, things that are made with intention are made with a purpose. This applies to you as well. You were made personally by God, right? God didn't have to create the world, but He chose to create the world, and He chose to create humanity, human beings, and then He actually chose to create you, particularly personally. You didn't have to exist, but He chose to create you. Humanity didn't have to exist, but He chose to create and design humanity. Just because? No, not just because. There's a purpose, right? Because He designed us, God designed us with a purpose. What is this purpose for which God made us? He made you for something very incredible. He made you for holiness. He made you for holiness, for sanctity. What is this word holiness? What is this word sanctity? It means He made you for an intense and deep union with Him. To have an intense and deep union with Him, a friendship. That's supposed to start here on earth, and it's supposed to continue for all eternity in heaven if we so choose to answer this call of holiness. I repeat this often to you. You may have heard me say this before about you being made for holiness. And the reason why I repeat this often is not because I can't come up with something new to say, but because I can't think of anything better to continue to remind you of. You were made for holiness. You were made for an intense union with God. So I would like to invite you to ask yourself, do I believe this? Do I believe I was made for holiness? Because often when we use this word, we immediately think of maybe a story of a saint we read who had no imperfections ever at all, whose life was complete neat and there was no messiness in their life. So we assume, well, I'm clearly not that, and so therefore I'm not called to holiness. That's a lie. You were made with concrete purpose by God, and that is holiness, sanctity, which means a deep union with the Lord. That's not always going to look super pretty. Sometimes holiness can be messy because our personalities are different, and we may have kids, or we may be sick, and so it's not going to look pretty necessarily. It's not going to look all neat and all well ordered, but you're still made for a deep union with God in the midst of who you are. And yes, that's supposed to begin to reflect also a change in your life. This is what you were made for. When you are in your deathbed, there's only one thing that's going to matter. There's only one thing that's going to matter. And it's not going to be whether, you traveled a lot or whether there's a lot on your retirement account, right? It's not going to matter whether you had a lot of fun or didn't have a lot of fun here on earth. The only thing that's going to matter when we're in our deathbed is, where am I in my relationship with the Lord? Have I grown in holiness and sanctity? Am I in deep union with Him that now I'll be able to continue to live for all eternity? Or am I not in a deep union with Him? That's why I repeat this a lot, because if we do not fulfill our purpose in life, which is holiness, sanctity, then we've wasted our life. We may have done a lot of great things, but really we didn't fulfill the purpose for which we're made, and so we wasted our life. Now, one of the issues of us responding to this awesome thing for which we were made for is that our hearts are fickle. Our hearts are weak. They're wounded. And so they get distracted by many things And when we're distracted, we stop answering this call to holiness and we start just doing other things. One of the things that distract us from this great call and invitation from the Lord of deep union with Him is money, possessions, wealth, material things. They distract us from our call to holiness. I may have already shared this story with you. I'm not sure if I shared it with this mass, so I apologize if I already shared this story. But a few years ago, it was a summer. I was not a priest yet. I was a seminarian. I was studying to be a priest. And I was assigned during a summer to work at a parish. And so one morning, I was walking to the chapel just to pray a little bit in the chapel. And as I was walking, there was somebody who was coming out, a parishioner. They were going to their car. And they saw me. They knew I had just begun there at the parish. I was a seminarian. And so he called me over. He said, "Hey, Seminarian Enrique, come here." So I went to him. And then he's like, "I want to give you something." And so he pulled out something from his pocket and he gave it to me. It was money. It was money, right? And so I grab it and then I look at it and it was $100 bill. And I was very moved by the gift. As a seminarian, your stipend is like $125 a month. So like $100 was like almost like a whole stipend. And so we don't need anything else. Everything else is taken care of. But anyway, so I see that the gift and I'm very moved and I'm like, I can't take this. It's too much. And he says, no, I want you to keep it, whatever. So I accepted and I was very, very, very grateful for the gift. And so anyway, he goes his way and then I start continuing walking to the chapel. And as I walk to the chapel, this thought comes to my heart and my mind. And I really think it was the Holy Spirit kind of inviting me to this idea. And the thought from the Holy Spirit was, why don't you just give this $100 away? It's right. You're right. You do not need this. Why don't you just give them away? And my first reaction to this was resistance. I was like, whoa, like, hold on. Yeah, I may not need them, but like, I could save this for later. Or I could buy this thing that I've been wanting to buy, or an extra book that I like to buy. And so I go into the chapel and I'm praying, and my prayer just became a debate between me and the Lord of what I was gonna do with this $100. And so then I'm like, okay, Lord, I'll give half away. Like, what about I give 50, and then I can just do something else with the other 50. I don't think there was anything intrinsically wrong with me keeping the money. But what was interesting to me, just reflecting upon this experience later, was that within 30 seconds or less of having been given this $100 bill, I couldn't get rid of it. Within seconds, my fickle heart had just become attached, and I could not, if this had not been given to me, I would not have missed it. I really didn't need it. But I couldn't get rid of it. I had to struggle. I really had to struggle if I was going to get rid of this, right? Our hearts are wounded. Our hearts are fickle. And they so easily get attached to possessions, to things. And these things distract us from what we were made for. Holiness. Deep union with God. We just heard of a man who comes up to Jesus and he tells Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me. Teacher, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." Now think about this. This guy, poor guy, maybe his parents passed away, his dad, and then only one of the brothers gets the inheritance. I don't know what the deal was. So he's like, man, I didn't get my cut, right? But he's there with Jesus. This is God-made man. And he's listening to Jesus proclaim the good news, talk about God's love, talk about really important things about salvation. And this guy is really literally in front of Jesus, not like in prayer like we get to do, but he's physical with Jesus, in his human form. He could have asked him anything. Hey, heal me of this struggle that I have, Jesus. I struggle with this thing. I can't love. Can you heal me of this? Or can you teach me about me being saved? Or could I be one of your disciples? He could have asked him anything. He had him right there. And the thing that he wants to ask Jesus about is about, hey, Jesus, how about you help me get my cut of the inheritance that it's unfair that I'm not getting? He misses the point. He has Jesus, God made man, right in front of him. The man who could satisfy the longing of his heart is right there. And what he approaches Jesus about is a thing regarding money, instead of pursuing that which he was made for, which is union with God, right? He is distracted. And we too, I too, like this man, often get distracted by material things, and it distracts me from what I was made for, my deep union with God. Obviously, we live in a material world, so we need things. So it's not like it's bad that you have a car or that you have a cell phone. We need food, we need a place to live, we need to provide for our families. So material things are not bad, we need them, and it is good to enjoy some material things. So they're not bad in themselves. The issue is when we become so attached to them that they actually are competing for this thing which we were made for, like I keep repeating, which is holiness. So I'll invite you to reflect today, just to try to be honest with yourself. What tends to concern you more? Do you tend to be more concerned with growing spiritually, growing in holiness, fulfilling the purpose of your life? Or do you tend to be more concerned with acquiring new material things, right? Saving for retirement as opposed to saving for eternal retirement? What do we think about daily? Do we get more excited about like the new car I'll buy, or the new clothes I'm gonna go get, or the new traveling opportunity I'm looking forward to? Or am I thinking more and getting more excited about growing in my union with God? Or if we think about the things that scare us, are you more scared of a possible economic crisis? Or are you more scared about not growing in holiness and deepening your union with God, of offending the Lord? May Jesus' words today from the gospel penetrate our hearts. Take care to guard against all greed, for though one may be rich, one's life does not consist of possessions.